Again, great player here, but you know what? If we're talking about Radiant Alakazam as the spiciest thing on the table, I'd have to say you're incorrect because he's up against Jonathan Williams playing Zacian V-Star.
Yeah.
You heard me right, Zacian V-Star. What better way to say goodbye to the Sword and Shield format than saying goodbye with Zacian V-Star?
Yes, Zacian V-Star will stay around, but the Zacian V that Jonathan is playing is, one of the best cards in really all of the Sword and Shield era.
Yeah, definitely. I think Sword and Shield started out very, very strong by printing this Zacian card. Just a great basic Pokemon, great to set up, great attacker, and just again, just love to see it here at the Pokemon Regional Championships.
So John did prize Radiant Greninja and Crobat, both one of Pokemon that he plays that could be really important at various points in the game, and also 3 basic Metal Energy. That makes it much less likely that you're going to get a hit off of that powerful Intrepid Sword ability. Now, this is not a Lost Zone Zacian V-Star deck. There was the Zacian V-Star deck that I think, did he get first or second down at Perth Regionals? It had a really good placement down there in Perth. That was a Lost Zone variant. This is just straightforward Zacian. It's all gas, using Mew, using the cross switchers to just take quick KOs. It's got a lot going on here, but it's all based around Zacian V and eventually Zacian V-Star.
Exactly. Just have to say, just looking at the board right now, just both absolutely beautiful cards. I love the art on the Suicune there. But yeah, it looks like Jonathan's going to start it off. The name of the game is, you said it right, Turbo Things Out. Right, we want to be able to get the Metal Energies into the discard pile, use Metal Saucers, power up a Zacian, and just start swinging. Just keep on swinging. That's why we're playing it with the Mew engine, the Turbo engine. Again, with the Mysterious Tail ability, able to find yourself an item card off the top, hopefully a Metal Saucer. But again, you mentioned it earlier. Without the Greninja or the Crobat, it might not be as fast as we think.
Yeah, those are 2 very important pop-off cards with their super powerful abilities. Speaking of powerful abilities, it will be that Mysterious Tail activated, looking at the top 6 cards of the deck, offering up many different item choices, but Jonathan will choose to take the Trekking Shoes, a pretty common choice with this style of engine, this turbo engine of deck. Being able to use these shoes to try to get through the deck and find more important resources, and also put good cards in the discard pile, like energy cards, to get back with Metal Saucer.
Exactly. I mean, if you can't go fast without your shoes here. Unfortunately, Trekking Shoes, I'm sure Jonathan would have loved to discard the Metal Energy just like that into the discard pile and just get a little bit more. We do get an attachment for turn. Here we go. Intrepid Sword looks at the top 3. Is there any Metal Energy? Yes, there is.
Solid
and gets
hit.
the rest into the hand. Not a bad ability. Yes, your turn ends, but completely worth it there.
And speaking of solid abilities, Frank going to kick it off with a Fleet-Footed. If Suicune is in the active spot, you just get to use that ability. Draw yourself an extra card to work with. So Frank's deck is the Articuno Inteleon Engine Paralysis deck. So kind of break down what the general strategy of this deck is and how it tries to attack this specific metagame.
All right, so just to talk about it real quick, I mean, if Jonathan's deck is just go fast, go hard, attack, 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 Frank's is the exact opposite. You want to get the paralysis. You want to be attacking with the Articuno, paralyze the opponent, stop them from attacking, and you utilize a lot of your different, I believe he's playing quick shooting Inteleons.
Yes.
And your Radiant Alakazams to really manipulate the damage on board to maybe not break the paralysis lock. So really stop your opponent from attacking. So some key cards in this matchup are going to be the switch cards.
Yes, and Jonathan does have a few. Has 1 switch and 1 escape rope. But you and I, before this game even started, we were looking through the list, and we kind of were surprised to see a little bit of a lower count there, because a big part of using this Mew engine is switching between a bunch of them multiple times. So you'd expect to see a lot of switch and a lot of scoop up net, but in reality, John just has 2 scoop up net, 1 switch, 1 escape rope, and then does have 4 cross switcher to go along with it, but that is not the most.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, right? Zacian V, when you attack with the do 230 damage with the Zacian V, you actually can't attack the next turn. That's why I was kind of expecting a lot more switch. Something Jonathan could actually play towards is, because Zacian V is an okay attacker. You can attack with that first and then evolve, thus removing the paralysis and getting a free attack, not having to pay for a switch.
Yeah, I almost wonder if Frank will expect the Zacian V-Star, right? Might think that he's safe to just paralyze the Zacian V for a turn, and then boom, evolve, get out of that paralysis.
Exactly. Not only that, hit for weakness as well. I'm not that it matters, but it's probably the biggest damage we're gonna see on stream.
Listen, Break Edge is not affected by weakness, okay?
Oh.
Unless we see the Sword Star V-Star power.
For 620 damage onto an Articuno.
It's got to happen. Frank does play that Hisuian Heavy Ball. Was a great time to do it as well, as it is turn 1, and there was a Sobble there, and the prize is offered up instantly. Now able to be benched. Of course, this board wants to be flooded with Sobble so that you can find tons of Drizziles and chain together those shady dealings turn after turn, action after action.
The more we play, the more we watch on stream, the more nostalgic I really do get. I mean, seeing Zacian V, seeing the Sobbles going into a shady dealings, these are, again, cards we're not going to see come rotation. So I love that we get I know we've seen the shady dealings already. I think it was our first stream, and I love to just see it once again. Now, we do see the Wash Energy getting attached there. I don't think it's going to matter quite too much in this matchup, but getting energy on board still is pretty good as we go over to Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan, using a Mysterious Tail, does find a Quick Ball, can find another basic Pokemon, and I actually think this will be Jonathan's first deck search, and he may be upset to find there is no Radiant Greninja, and there's also no Crobat. Gonna have to do a double take probably on this one.
That is true, but he does have an attack already lined up here again with the Zacian V, and he has the Zacian V-Star, so he's safe for 2 turns, and then maybe after the two turns, that's when we have to worry. I think we see a cross switcher as well in the hand. Again, it's just a matter of saving those resources. I think we're about to see him swing into a Suicune for 2 prizes, which isn't too bad there to start. Ooh.
Does have that Zamazenta as well from Crown Zenith. Its Retaliate attack, of course, dealing more damage if your opponent took a prize on their last turn. Could sneak in as a 1-prize attacker in order to try to favorably manipulate that prize trade. Zamazenta, yeah, should go to the hand there as John does pick it up. And that's actually pretty interesting as well because it has that Metal Shield ability. So it won't really take too much damage from Articuno.
That's true. Articuno, I believe, only does a base damage of 70. So if you're reducing that by 30, you're only doing 40 damage. You're, what are you, 5-shotting?
Yeah.
3-shotting, 4-shotting, something like that?
Not efficient at
8
all.
for 1 prize. Right, but we do see now the Zacian all powered up. Does he have a way to get out of the active? But it's going to be one of those cross switchers.
It will be the cross switchers targeting down this energy on the Sobble. I think this makes sense. You could expect your opponent to play a rare candy, which we can see in the list. Frank does indeed have a rare candy, so cuts off the option of an Aqua Bullet on turn 2. And Jonathan Williams does strike first in this game. And leaves Frank, in a little bit of a precarious position. Does get this turn going with the draw. Does find a Drizzile, a pretty good hit off the top. We'll start things off with the Fleet-Footed. I think this is a good time to use this ability as well before you do any searching because you get to see what you have access to before you know what you need to search for.
Exactly. Nice and simple effect. Just draw 1 card. Might as well get the most information before you start doing your searches. Looks like we are going to go ahead and Shady Dealings here. Irida. Pretty normal combo there. I was expecting maybe something like a Raihan if we wanted to attack with the Suicune, but however, I think the energy in the discard pile is only the Wash Energy, and I don't think we're necessarily getting a knockout. Ooh, that's an interesting card. Yeah. Interesting grab there. But
and if Frank is going for Ice Cube, that definitely tells me he does not know that his opponent plays Zacian V-Star, right? You're not anticipating the Zacian V-Star if you're going for Ice Cube because Ice Cube, of course, only is going to protect you against basic Pokemon.
Exactly. Again, that is the... but again, that's why we play a best out of 3 match. So
yes.
Even if, you're not taking this into account right now, I mean, maybe we won't see that Ice Cube for game 2 or 3. I mean, it does do 70 damage into the Zacian. That's all right. I'm sure maybe something like the Articuno. He doesn't really have a really good attacker in this position.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that this feels a little awkward, honestly, for Frank. And it might just be like a 2-hit KO line, hit with something in to clean this up a little bit later on. Maybe try to force your opponent to exhaust some of their resources by going for the Articuno, but he has not gone for that strategy just yet. And I think that's probably because he's anticipating his opponent probably has a myriad of switching cards.
Exactly. And I mean, you can't really set up the Articuno without the Frostmoth, right?
Yeah. I'm really not the Ice Cube either.
Yeah. I mean, like, Yeah, without something like the Raihan early. He does play Raihan, but the supporter for turn was Irida. So it might just be, honestly, just a setup turn, just a pass real quick back to Jonathan. And again, if he doesn't have the evolution, he doesn't have the attack or a switch card here.
We do see the retreat, yes, into this Mew. Of course, with that air balloon, getting that free retreat, -2, and now 6 cards off the top. A few metal saucers to work with. Also an energy search, I think, found here. Might just be the trekking shoes, though. Try to get through the deck a little bit more efficiently. Does not find a switch, though. I think does have a scoop up net in hand.
He does have a scoop up net, so that's perfect there. Again, you do want to save your switches, your escape ropes for once the Articuno does come down. And, you know, you can't use scoop up net on a Pokemon V, so that is the perfect thing to have in the hand for sure.
It's going to be a good time to do it as well, as this Brave Blade will net 2 prizes for John Williams. Now, trekking shoes being played first, I would imagine. Looking at the rest of the hand. Yep, sure enough, here we go. Trekking shoes. Ooh, is that a training court?
Yeah, I believe it was a training court. Not something too bad to have, but yeah, we're going to have to discard that to get
an energy search. That's an old school energy search artwork right there.
Gotcha. It looks like it is just going to be the scoop up net back into the Zacian. Didn't quite see an energy attachment just yet, but you did say he does have the energy search. Would love to see him just set up a second Zacian. Really establish the board state here, because after this, he goes down to 3 prizes. If he can just find a way to do 3 attacks, 3 clean attacks, he should just win the game.
Yeah, Frank's got to start responding now, right? John had a little bit of time to set up, and Frank's deck is just naturally a little bit slower. It wants to play the long game with the paralysis options. And I really hope Frank doesn't lean too heavy into this Ice Cube, but I think we are going to see it.
Yeah, we do see the energy attachment there. Maybe Frank is just thinking, you know what, I'm going to win. Yes, I'm going to be down in prizes, but I'm going to win the board state, because once I have my Ice Cube set up, he can't do anything. But then as soon as we see the Zacian V-Star, we're going to have to change plans there.
Yeah, it's going to be an immediate pivot into some other option. Now, Frank, having a little think about what exactly to do, does send up the Ice Cube. This could signal a Raihan play this turn.
Yes, and again, with the Shady Dealings in Talion giving you access to any 2 trainer cards. Again, the world is Frank's oyster here. Opts for a Quick Ball and the Raihan. You were absolutely correct there. Does have the energy in hand for the discard. And yeah, we should be able to see it shortly. Quick Ball netting him maybe a Sobble potentially. There we go.
And this could lead to the reset of one of these Intellions with a scoop up net, something like that for a future turn. For now, though, Raihan bringing this energy card to the active spot can fetch another energy out of the deck if he needs to. I actually don't think he had a basic water energy in the discard pile. It was just the wash energy.
It was just the wash. So that's why the grab was the Quick Ball there off the Shady Dealings in Talion. And I believe, he does have to grab at least 1 more energy there. No, does he play Cat Bucket, or is he just going to grab just 1 energy?
I think he grabbed the wash energy, grabbed the wash water energy, that special energy. Might as well use it now. You can't search it. Like we mentioned in our earlier game, can't search it out of the deck with anything besides the Raihan, so get value from it right now. Makes a lot of sense.
All right, there we go. We do see the block face, but I would love to see Frank's face once we see.
Yep, well, we've got a player cam here, so we'll get a good look at it.
All right, again, here with the Zacian V-Star, should be coming up shortly, should be able to attack through this Ice Cube, but finally grabbing the Radiant Greninja there just to really get through the deck. And there it is!
Just a light nod. Not too big of a reaction there from Frank Percic.
Maybe expected it, and now it's confirmed. You know, maybe Frank is already thinking of what he's going to be able to do for game 2 or 3. 2 and 3, potentially.
Yeah, Frank making sure he knows exactly what's up with this Pokemon, knows what it does. And it does knock out Ice Cube. That is one thing it definitely does. And this is looking really bleak for Frank. Now, he could try to make something happen still.
Yes.
We could see a paralysis play with the Articuno potentially. Intellion coming into the active could signal a potential scoop up net incoming. Top deck actually was that Shady Dealings Drizzile, so that'll be something nice to work with.
Exactly, and that's exactly what he's going to play here. Maybe finding themselves a scoop up net to just net 2 more cards with the Drizzile on the bench. But again, I think he's going to need quite a bit here. He's going to need to have the Frostmoth in. He has Frostmoth in play, Articuno, 2 energies, and a way to switch. quite a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit. But if you work in a scoop-up net there, pick up this Intellion in the active spot, get a couple more shady dealings, you could possibly make it happen. Does he play just one? No, he does play 2 Raihan, so that's another way to potentially power up the Articuno this turn without having to use the Frostmoth.
That is true. That is true. But I would have to guess that. I mean, Irida is such a tempting supporter sometimes. But no, we're both wrong.
It is the Nessa. Another card that I'm pretty sure is going to rotate here pretty soon. I got to double check exactly when that legality is for Nessa, but it lets you search your discard pile for 4 in any combination of basic water and basic water energy and water Pokemon and put them back into your hand. And indeed, it is a card that rotates. So one last hurrah for Nessa as well.
It says water energy cards instead of basic water. So does that mean you can grab something like a wash energy?
No, because wash energy actually says on it that this is only a water energy when it's attached to a Pokemon. So
makes sense.
Yeah, it's not a water energy when it's not attached. So you cannot grab it. You have to just grab basic energies.
For sure. Would have loved a way to just recycle some special energies for sure, which is very, very uncommon in the formats.
For sure.
But there we go. We're going to see the Nessa here. Get a couple of energies. We do see the Frostmoth in play as well. Does he have the Articuno in hand? Or did he grab the Quick Ball at least?
Could grab the Suicune here and just try to take the knockout. Would need to deal 200 damage. So, well, quick maths here. You do 20 base. That means you're going to need 9 Pokemon in play for both players, with your opponent having 4. You having 4 on the bench right now. If you could bench just 1 more Pokemon, you could make it work, but looks like Articuno actually was in hand.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be the better play, because even if you take the knockout with the Suicune here, that means there's a Jocelyn already on the bench with 2 energy, does a base damage of 231 energy.
You're hoping for your opponent to miss something that's pretty unlikely for them to miss.
Exactly. And here we're going to see the Wild Freeze, 70 damage, but you also hit yourself for 50, but you leave the opponent's Pokemon paralyzed, which is a very, very powerful special condition in the Pokemon TCG. Just leaves the Pokemon unable to retreat or attack. It's pretty good.
Yeah, anytime I look at a new set and I see a card that says it automatically paralyzes your opponent's active Pokemon, there's no coin flips or anything like that, it's always worth remembering that this card exists. Keeping it in the back pocket for a potential set way down the line. I mean, you think about a card like that Zekrom from Vivid Voltage, a card that was pretty much never played, and then finally the format comes around, we get Lugia V-Star being so popular, Flaffy Box becomes a thing, and boom, Zekrom finally has its time to shine 2 years after it released.
That is true. Again, it's just a matter of determining, is the current metagame playing that many Switch cards?
Yes.
If one of the best decks in format like Lugia V-Star play 0 to 1 switches, it might be time to pick up the paralysis. But
Jonathan here looking for a Switch card of some sort in order to get out of this spot. Will go for the Serena. Did use Scoop Net on that Greninja, so it can be used once again. Concealed cards being offered up right now. Discarding a Metal Energy, drawing 2. Does he find a Switch or Escape Rope?
Didn't quite see it there. Looks like it was a Metal Saucer and a Metal Energy grabbed. Might not be able to attack this turn, but you can set up multiple other Pokemon. Frank not able to get any prizes just yet. Jonathan should have the time here. Could be even just a time for just another Intrepid Sword. Get 3 more cards to work with.
Yeah, and it really does feel like it's just going to be a matter of time before Jonathan does find some of these switch outs to get out of this position. But for now, Frank will try to make things happen with this Articuno as long as he possibly can. I do think there is an emergency jelly already waiting in the hand. That bag now being attached to the Articuno. Going to get a little bit of extra healing.
Exactly. And just to quote Quile really quick, I haven't done math in a minute, but I wonder,
I think he said, I haven't been to math in a minute.
I haven't been to math in a minute, but let's see here. You want to hit with Articuno, and you want to be in a position where you're taking a knockout using a quick shooting Inteleon and possibly Radiant Alakazam. Right now, there's 140 damage.
Yeah,
that math is kind of tough.
Yeah, put it up to 210 this turn, so that means it's 60 damage away from being KO'd. So then you might want to Alakazam, move the damage off of it, hit it again for 70, leave it paralyzed for 1 more turn, and then boom, next turn, use that quick shooting Inteleon.
Pretty good at math.
You see, here's the deal, Wancho. If you try to just do it in your head while you're casting and talking about other parts of the game, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Instead, you do the math as you're talking through all the actions, and it makes it sound like you already knew what was going, but you're really just figuring it out as the words are coming out of your mouth. Little tip for you, yeah.
Pro tip here from the amazing Chirichi. But yeah, all right. Looks like that's exactly. Oh, there we go.
You're quick ball correct. Grabbing out that Radiant Alakazam. Now may be the time to move some of this damage off. 20 damage going where is the question, and it looks like it will be to that Mew, and that is something that's, it's a little squishy. It's easy to knock out later on, just a few more Alakazam movements, maybe a quick shooting Inteleon at some point, or even an Aqua Bullet with Inteleon could close out the game.
Exactly, exactly. But again, we are a long way from closing out the game as we attack once again with the Wild Freeze and the Emergency Jelly kicking in, just healing up that Articuno back on over to Jonathan. Again, just a matter of all Jonathan needs here. If he can get 2 switch cards in hand, he's good.
Yes.
And he does play at least 2, and he still has 2 cross switchers. He has access to 2 cross switchers, excuse me.
Now, having that training court coming into play, that will give Jonathan access to another energy card. Looking through the discard pile, does have a metal energy still in the hand, a few metal saucer to work with as well. Might as well bring some of these back.
Exactly. Very, very intimidating board here by Jonathan. Frank has to play this absolutely perfectly at this point onward. He has to be thinking, I can't allow him to hit me at any point. Well, maybe one time, because he can afford one prize there. But definitely tough position to be in. Does find themselves the Crobat V
off that Hisuian Heavy Ball. Now that will be shuffled back into the deck. Crobat V being added to the hand. Could potentially draw 1 or 2 cards if Jonathan could thin the hand down enough, but instead goes for Marnie. And as long as Inteleon has been around, we have talked about how Marnie is such a good strategy against these decks that just aim to build up such a large hand size. And this is especially a great time to do it because Frank just played Scoop Up Net.
Exactly. I'm trying to see what else is in their hand.
Oh, I do see the double cross switcher.
Ooh, off of Marnie. Not too bad there. And not only that, they could target something down like a Sobble or potentially the Inteleon to prevent a scoop up net here.
Maybe taking out Inteleon is pretty decent, but kind of the awkward thing is that Jonathan chose to, we'll use the training court to bring the energy back. I was going to say John chose to power up the Zamazenta, but it cannot knock out things like that Inteleon or the Radiant Alakazam, right? Instead of charging up something like that Zacian V.
That is true. We're going to see the cross switch here. Frostmont's a pretty good target, too. Again, 190 HP should be enough there. Again, Zamazenta does do a base of 100, I believe.
Yes, and Frostmoth is weak to metal as well.
So this is 200 damage, big damage here.
The tough thing about this, though, John choosing to attack with Zamazenta as opposed to attacking with Zacian, is that Zacian could evolve into a V-Star to get out of paralysis. Zamazenta can't.
That is true. So we're looking for a switch. But again, making use of the Zamazenta ability, honestly, maybe Articuno just knocks themselves out, especially when there's no Frostmoth in play.
Yeah.
To set up a fresh one. But we're going to see here, again, Scoop Up Net. So it would have been nice to be able to see knockout there on Inteleon, prevent this entire play altogether. And just like that, just with that one card, with that one Scoop Up Net, Frank is technically ready for the next couple of turns. He has Shady Dealings right now. He'll have Shady Dealings in the next turn. Just goes to show the power of this entire evolutionary line.
He's going to have to figure out exactly how he wants to work out this Radiant Alakazam damage. Do you move some damage over and try to sneak an extra knockout on the Mew? Do you try to sneak some extra knockouts onto this active? Or do you boss his orders and bring up this Zacian V-Star and lock it into the active for one more turn?
That is true. And with the boss's orders there, let's see what they decide to pick up.
Looks like it is that Zacian V-Star.
It is going to be the Zacian V-Star. Again, making full use of the damage on the Articuno. Again, it's only doing 40 to the Zamazenta. And
I don't expect to see the Alakazam being utilized here. Don't want to move any of the damage off of this because you are now putting it up to 260 damage. So now next turn, you can knock it out with a quick shooting Inteleon. But John has the escape rope, and that is just going to be the game. Could just send up the Zamazenta, retreat, and then Zacian V-Star could use its Sword Star V-Star power to knock anything out on the field. Frank sees the writing on the wall, instantly scoops, and we're going to game 2.
Ooh, what a game. But you know what? I think it's just, again, one of those games that now that Frank has the information of what Jonathan's deck is, I think we're going to see some major changes for sure.
Yeah, I think Frank wasted a good bit of resources going for the Ice Q, and it's not to his detriment. He didn't know that his opponent played Zashi and V-Star, right? Might have assumed his opponent had a Dialga deck, right? That's more commonly what we would see with this combination of cards.
I mean, even then, Dialga's not that common. So,
yeah.
Again, just getting that information right now. Would love to see how this Articuno plays. Like we got to see a taste of it. You know, I saw a glimmer of hope there, despite Jonathan being down to 2 prizes. There was the lock did get established, and it was just a matter of making sure he uses those resources maybe a little bit early to really establish the lock. But either way, I think it's a very, very interesting matchup. Very tough matchup for Frank, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, any deck that plays multiple switch outs.
And it was tough for, it's going to be tough with too many switch outs. It is also unfortunate for Frank that he started the Suicune V, right? Starting that 2-prize liability instantly and having John just being able to take 2 prizes on it pretty freely at some point definitely sets you back a whole turn pretty much.
Exactly, yes. As nice as the Fleet Footer draws are, I'd rather not give up prizes, for sure.
Yeah, not that early.
Looking
especially.
at the prizing here, Emergency Jelly is prized, 1 Drizzle and 1 Sobble.
Also prized that Hisuian Heavy Ball, so Sobble is going to be hanging out in the prizes there for a while.
For sure, for sure. Luckily, Frank does play 2 Emergency Jellies, and maybe once he does take a knockout, it is in the bottom, so he should be able to see it within the game there. And then taking an extra card as well here definitely helps out.
John now drawing this opening hand, I do think has a Mew, pretty much the best starter you could ask for. And I have to imagine Frank will have chosen to go first in this one. A couple energy cards in the prizes for John. Air Balloon, Trekking Shoes, Serena, Quick Ball, nothing too bad.
Nothing too bad. The only thing, I think, some key things we don't want to see in the prizes are just the switches.
Yeah.
So he does have access to the slew of switches as Frank starts the game off.
And Frank does start the Articuno this game, so we could see that Wild Freeze attack being utilized as early as turn 2 if he gets the attachment this turn. Using it into a Mew is not the strongest, though. It does get you a prize at least, but is that really worth it?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah, I think the name of the game, again, is establishing the board state and taking knockouts, taking a prize off a Mew. That's all right, but it's not, again, you're not really establishing the lock there. As we just see a lone Sobble in play and pass here to Jonathan. Something Jonathan could do, he could attack with a Brave Blade turn 1. That's not an impossibility.
It's not an impossibility, but you have to wonder how worth it is it. Use that Brave Blade, deal 230 damage or really 460 damage to this Metal Weak Articuno. Then you can't attack next turn. You have to use your V-Star right away in order to stream attacks. You have to use one of those switch cards. Is it worth extending that much? And I don't think the answer is yes.
A world where I can see it's worth it is if you can set up the Zacian and an escape rope taking out the lone Sobble after a Marnie.
Yeah, taking out this Sobble would be really strong if Jonathan can piece it together. Does only play that 1 escape rope, but if he was fortunate enough to draw it and also draw a way to get 2 Metal Energy in the discard pile and also 2 Metal Saucer and also an attachment for turn and a Zacian V, then yeah, it would be pretty good.
I believe in it. Not only that, it could be Cross Switcher instead of Escape Rope.
Okay. You say that. I think Jonathan might have 2 Cross Switcher in hand. No, just one.
Just one. Actually, his hand not looking the strongest, to be honest.
Whoa, and just to pass, all Frank needs is the water energy, and Capacious Bucket can find it. Wild Freeze takes the knockout turn 2 on the Mew, and is that a record? Fastest game we have seen. We're going into a game 3.
Wow, we had so many dreams for that Zacian, but unfortunately, when you just didn't quite draw the right cards, Marnie typically used to really, draw yourself a fresh hand and disrupt your opponent. But again, 5 cards isn't too much. I'm very surprised. Again, Jonathan is playing quite a few basic Pokemon, has quite a number of really turbo cards like Quick Ball, Ultra Ball. And but yeah, sometimes that's the game of Pokemon. You only have a lone Mew, and at least we do get a game 3.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Frank's mentality has probably now changed. Going into game 2, I mean, his deck is not a fast deck. It plays a very slow game. It aims to slow things down, go for the paralysis, spread some damage, and take multi-prizes later on in the game. So he was probably going into game 2 expecting to, at best, come out of this situation with a tie. If he can win a long game 2, he might be able to get 1 match point out and tie.
But now all the dream is alive.
Yeah, the dream is very much alive. Now all of a sudden you find yourself winning that game. on turn number 2, with 2 Drizzile Prize, that's a little awkward, and an escape rope on John Williams' side. But you find yourself winning game 2, all of a sudden you can realistically win this set.
Exactly. We're going to see Jonathan start us off here, and not the best. I guess it's not Mew, but at least it's not going to get knocked out by Articuno anytime soon.
Yeah, Zacian V will take a little bit longer to deal with on Frank's end. Jonathan now does discard Galarian Zigzagoon with that quick ball. Another Pokemon who's having its last tournament here. Galarian Zigzagoon has been such a useful and powerful card. Basically, as soon as it came out, starting off initially in that Galarian Obstagoon deck, but it has been a mainstay of the standard format for the entirety of its legality.
It's okay. We have Hawlucha now, but I will misuse it.
No scoop up net, though. No scoop up net.
We're going to see the training court now. Just, good use there, getting another Metal Energy. If I was Jonathan here, honestly, just getting attachment 4 turns just to really get going would be great, but I think doesn't have that much else. Just going to be Intrepid Sword. Let's see how lucky they are. 3 cards. 1 energy.
Okay. We'll
Not
take
the
it.
worst.
Yeah, I honestly wonder if Jonathan should have used the Intrepid Sword with the benched Zacian, so that next turn he could accelerate him energy with a Metal Saucer, attach for turn, boom, Air Balloon. All of a sudden we're attacking turn 2. Now it's a lot tougher when you've put this energy on the active.
That is a fair point. Maybe Jonathan was hoping to hit 2 Metal Energy off that.
The high roll plays. Frank Percic kicking things off with that Capacious Bucket. Off of the Irida, also will get a Water Pokemon. Maybe another Sobble could come down. Also could just grab something like the Snom, and with the Sobble in the active, could go for a Keep Calling this turn.
I think that would be the perfect play, actually. Again, since you can't find Snom off the Keep Calling, it only finds Rapid Strike Pokemon, unfortunately. And there it is. And but yeah, not a bad turn here, I think, for Frank. Great setup turn for sure. He will have all the Sobble he wants in the world, but not that many Drizzile again in the deck.
A card we have not yet talked about, but absolutely that's something that could come into play for Frank is the Sky Seal Stone that he plays in his deck. It does let you take an extra prize whenever you knock out your opponent's Pokemon V Max, but also their Pokemon V Star. So if you get enough damage onto that Zacian V Star, you can maybe sneak in a Sky Seal Stone Suicune play to take 3 prizes in a situation where you otherwise would not be able to win.
Yeah, that definitely feels like a closer play for sure, and just a way to really expedite things. Saving any amount of turns, especially when in a deck like that depends on paralysis, is absolutely huge. I think that's exactly why we have Suicune in the first place, just so that we have access to the Sky Seal Stone as we move over now to Jonathan's turn.
Yeah, quick ball discarding the Mew, searching the deck for any basic Pokemon. I do think Jonathan drew the Crobat last turn, so that's already waiting in the hand to potentially draw some more cards. And Jonathan thinks that there's nothing else in the deck that he really wants right now. Let's just thin an extra card out and maybe setting up to draw a little bit more with this Crobat.
Exactly. Maybe the Zamazenta, again, it did put in a little work earlier, but right now he does have a couple of Zacians to try and power up here. As we see a Serena.
Okay,
discarding the scoop of that. I think only drawing 2 cards there, but any amount of draw is good.
And I think found a second Cross Switcher. Okay.
I don't think we use it right now, though, do we?
Yeah, true. No. Probably. Well, yeah, Jonathan seems to think so. If you could take out the Snom, it actually would be pretty decent.
Actually, make things a little bit tougher to set up an Articuno, but with things like Raihan and Shady Dealings, not the hardest thing to imagine. As we again, you still have to set up an attacker. We do have the Metal Saucer in hand. Oh, but he doesn't have any Metal Energy yet in the discard pile. He needs 2 energies. There is 1 energy in hand. Can use concealed cards, send that to the discard pile. He needs to at least draw 1. Let's see if he gets it here.
Drawing 2 cards. There's another Metal Saucer, but not a basic Metal Energy.
Still has access to a supporter for turn, so he does have Marnie there. Opts to quick ball away to Drapion. Drapion not going to do anything in this matchup. Let's see if he could grab the Zamazenta, maybe not even bench it, just send it to the bottom of the deck if he doesn't feel like using it here.
Yeah, Zamazenta does not feel like the best attacker in this matchup, to be honest. Your opponent's deck is aiming to sneak extra prizes and keep something locked active, so it's going to be really hard to get good use out of Zamazenta. And we actually saw in Game 1, it was even a little awkward for Jonathan to use it. Oh, he does have 2 Metal Energy in the discard pile, by the way. There are 2 Metal Energy down, so there's 2 Saucers in hand, so he can totally get off the Brave Blade this turn.
Okay, very interesting where he didn't opt to play the Metal Saucer before the Crobat then. But in that case, he will have the attack here. Huge, huge damage on a Snom that I believe only has 50 HP.
I think it's just 40.
40.
It's a little guy. Snom's trying its best, okay?
But yeah, it's about to get hit by a Brave Blade shortly here. And yeah, there it is. Grabs, uses the training card, saves the Metal Saucer. Not too bad there.
Yep, and still uses one of the 2 Saucer in hand to get this second energy for the turn. Any card that lets you kind of cheat an extra energy card into play is always very, very strong, and that's exactly what Metal Saucer is, who, by the way, Metal Saucer, another card having its last tournament. Crobat V having its last tournament.
Oh, too many goodbyes.
Training courts.
Oh, I'm not ready. But again, the next format still is shaping up to be very, very exciting. But yeah, as we see here, Brave Blade, 460 damage shortly after the Hisuian Heavy Ball. Didn't quite see, did he grab anything off the Hisuian Heavy Ball?
I don't think so. Wasn't anything to grab. And I think put the prizes back in almost the exact same way. I'm pretty sure there were, I think the Raihan and the escape rope switched places, but other than that, I think it's almost exactly the same. Jonathan Williams taking the first prize. Frank left to just promote this Sobble into the active and see what he can make happen with 2 Drizzile prized. This is going to be tough.
I mean, he could always just grab one and then scoop up net is pretty much as many Drizziles as you want.
As many Drizziles as you have scoop up nets.
Exactly.
And that becomes the question. Now, Frank, I think, actually does have Inteleon in hand. And we know he plays 1 rare candy. So when you've prized 2 Drizzile, it does seem like a decent time to go for that rare candy into Shady Dealings Inteleon play.
But how do we get the rare candy? You're going to have to use...
Drizzile number 1.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, okay. That is right. That is right. He has the Inteleon already in hand.
I think so, yeah.
So he's... What else is he going to... Does he have Articuno? He has an energy attachment already in the active, so that is a way to retreat potentially. So Raihan is definitely a big card in this scenario. But again, even if you get the Articuno attack, you're only attacking Zacian V. And we know... He's playing the V-Star.
Yeah, I think this is what Frank has to do, though. He's got to attack. He's got to make it happen, right? He's got to force Jonathan to either play a switch or to play the evolution, right? You got to force your opponent's hand in some way, which is really not the best place for Frank's deck to be in. He wants to be in a more commanding position where he has the knowledge. He knows his opponent only plays, 2 Lugia V-Star, right? And then you lock 1 Lugia V-Star into the active spot. Whenever it's a little bit unknown, okay, what exactly does my opponent have? You're in a little bit more awkward of a position.
At the same time, Jonathan right now did attack with the Brave Blade with the Zacian, which means it can't attack this next turn. So if you would like to attack, he will have to expend the switch anyway, or have to manually retreat the Zacian.
Or evolve it, right? So it would have to use one of those outs to paralysis to even attack this next turn. That's a good point.
Yes, but it's a matter of, do I leave my opponent to do what I want for me, or do I force their hand and just let them evolve, right? So I want to see Frank's thought process here shortly again, because either way I think could be an okay play, as we do see the Articuno being dropped right now.
And I think Raihan might already be in the hand.
All right,
if that is the case, we could see this turn to attack with the Articuno. Sure enough, Raihan now searches any card out of the deck. Will it be the rare candy, or do we prep something maybe for the next turn?
Do you have another energy
potentially
in hand? It looks like it is the rare candy there.
And I think he does have another energy card, so feeling pretty decent about that.
All right, and I'm not even quite sure what else. Oh, you need to find your next Frostmoth, right? So maybe this rare candy finds something like a quick ball or a level ball potentially.
Yeah, the tough thing here is it's just a 1/1 line of Frostmoth, so the only way to get it back, as far as I can see right now, is Nessa, and then there's 1 ordinary rod as well. So it's a bit of a combo to set up. For now, Frank will just go with that Wild Freeze, 70 damage, and now this active Zacian. It doesn't look like it, but yeah, there we go. Yeah, it is indeed paralyzed.
And now it's not.
Frank kind of just laughing about it as well. Having John Williams, I think, maybe top-decked the answer in that Zacian V-Star. Now be able to get out of that status condition and can go for the break edge here, take the KO, and force Frank to find a response. And by dealing with that Snom on turn 1, Frostmoth is not going to be an option to easily set up the next Articuno.
Exactly, but again, it did force Jonathan to to use one of his outs, right? He did
course,
force the
yeah.
evolution there, so that is still progressing your game plan. So you just have to count how many times they can realistically break out a paralysis, right? Evolve, 2 switches, cross switcher. That's quite a bit, but you have to go through them.
This is pretty smart as well from John playing this Marnie. Your opponent just used Raihan and then attached a basic energy, and that was it. So either your opponent Raihan for a basic energy card, or they're sitting on a pretty good card in their hand. So I like the decision to try to disrupt Frank here. As we've mentioned before, it's just a good strategy against these Intellion decks generally as well.
Exactly. As we see the Break Edge now doing 200 damage.
Not 400.
Yeah, unfortunately there. A little bit of a downside of Break Edge.
Not affected by weakness.
Yes, and as we go back to Frank here, Frank, again, is going to need quite a bit, especially off the Marnie. Only has 1 Drizzile left in the deck. I see a Lost Vacuum, not something we need. Raihan, though, is pretty good.
Yeah, Raihan's decent. This will allow Frank to get anything that he wants, but will it mean he cannot set up another Articuno this turn? And I think the answer is yes. So I think we're probably just going to have to see an Aqua Bullet, just try to get some damage in play. The awkward thing about attacking with Intellion, though, is that you're offering it up to be just KO'd. And if your opponent just KOs it, especially in a spot like this where Frank has prized 2 Drizzile, your only way to get Shady Dealings back is going to be through that Nessa.
Yeah, definitely an awkward position to be in, but you can't just pass the turn and not do damage. Again, 120 is pretty big. It's sizable enough, but again, it also matters. Again, he has to start planning his next couple of turns as well here. He does have access to Shady Dealing, so he should be able to grab at least a Drizzile and maybe, yeah, just at least his last Drizzile potentially, and maybe set up another Shady Dealings the next couple of turns. But yeah, again, definitely very awkward situation to be in, but does grab the Ordinary Rod, maybe identifying that I need to set up that Snom, because this is the last Raihan.
Yeah, that's the last one right there. And Scoop Up Net is the other card grabbed off of Shady Dealings. If Frank has some basic search in hand already, like Quick Ball, this could make sense. I mean, he's really having to think through what to do here. I mean, this is a deck that is aiming to counter the meta. So when he plays against a Lugia, he has a set strategy. He knows what to do. When he plays against a Mew, he knows what to do, has a set strategy. And even decks that might be a harder matchup, like Lost Box or Reggie's or anything like that, he's got strategies that he knows he needs to go for. But when you're playing something that's completely unknown, you're really having to think on your feet.
Definitely. I'd be banking he's played 0 games against Zacian V-Star in his play testing.
I'd take that bet.
But yeah, would argue here maybe opts to, Scoop Up Net the Intellion. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Just, it's just too important to lose. Yes, you're losing off energy, but, you're setting your hand up for the next couple of turns as we Shady Dealings right now for the level ball to find the Snom. Very important card.
And I think before Frank passes this turn, I mean, he's kind of offering this Alakazam up as a way to just get knocked out. I think it's important for him to utilize Painful Spoons before he does it, because we saw how important just that one movement of the damage was to set up for the turn of knocking out the Zacian with quick shooting. So Frank needs to be mindful of using Painful Spoons here before passing the turn so that he can go for that same play in this game.
Exactly, and there is no chance for Frank to, once this Alakazam goes down, it stays in the discard pile, because we've already seen the Ordinary Rod being used, and Nessa only grabs water Pokemon, and Alakazam isn't water. So, yeah, so he has to do it right now, and I think it just makes things so awkward, though, once the Alakazam goes down, because then he doesn't have access to that for the next future Zacians. Again, this is the first Zacian V-Star Frank has to deal with. He still has to take 6 prizes. That's at least 2 more Zacians.
Water Energy attached for turn. Training Court bringing another one back. Oh, and I think he did just pass, so did not utilize the Painful Spoons. Might have some other things in mind with how he wants to manipulate damage, maybe with quick shooting down the line, but I feel like using it here would have been decent.
Yes, but again, we must have other things planned. Let's see how Jonathan responds now. He has double cross switcher in hand. I don't think you use it. Oh, you use it. Grabbing the Articuno here. Okay. Yeah, who didn't even get the Snom down. So not too bad. Again, using it is one of your valuable switch out options, but to be able to take down a threat, I think it's worth it.
6 cards off the top from Mysterious Tail does find a Metal Saucer, and this is a turn
Ooh.
where Jonathan can attack with the other Zacian V.
I think that would be great, actually. Yeah, good point there. If he attacks with the Zacian V, it leaves it open for an evolution. Again,
Well, now that I'm saying that, I'm thinking through it a little bit more. I wonder if it actually doesn't make much sense. I think Jonathan is, yeah, he might just go for the. He's really thinking about it here. So the thing to think about is how likely is it for my opponent to make another Articuno next turn? And if you think about Frank's resources this game, he's down 2 Raihan. There's no Snom in play. I don't actually think it's possible for Frank to pull off an Articuno this coming turn. So with that being considered, it actually is correct for John to attack with the Zacian V-Star, as it can attack in consecutive turns.
That is a good point. Maybe save the Zacian V for later once you start seeing maybe glimpses of an Articuno you can't really deal with at the moment. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely an easier attacker to have in the active. So yeah, good play there by Jonathan. As we move over, the Frank does have the Irida, but let's see if it's a little bit too late. Again, John down to 3 prizes. Again, if he can just find a way to attack 3 times, he wins this game. He has an evolution in his hand. He still has access, I believe, to his switch and escape rope. We only seen the cross switchers, I believe.
Looks like there's a discussion happening with our judge at the table right now. I'm not 100% sure what happened. Looks like there's a little bit of a chat happening. Gonna try to get it figured out.
All right, all right. Again, at the moment, just Irida being played, I believe.
I think they're maybe talking about one of Frank's search cards. It sounds like something with a level ball or a quick ball. If he maybe missequenced something, got an evolution off a quick ball or something like that.
It's not the first time where I've just thought too far ahead in my Inteleon deck, right? Maybe you go a Shady Dealings and just immediately grab a Pokemon instead of the level ball that gets the Pokemon. That's not uncommon for sure, especially when you're trying to think of so many turns ahead. And I think we're just going to get clarification here. I mean, there is the level ball in the discard pile.
There's a quick ball as well. I wonder if the conversations maybe do. I think Frank used level ball to get the Radiant Alakazam, maybe. I think he did use the quick ball for it, but yeah. Frank's talking back through the actions here, working back through exactly what happened. This is one of the reasons why it can be nice to keep your discard pile in order. Some people will move cards around in the discard pile while they're thinking about different things. It can actually be nice to keep your cards in order for reasons like this. If there is ever any sort of dispute, you've got the proof, right? You've got the order that cards were played laid out right there in your discard pile.
I've never even thought of doing that. I've always been one of the just shuffle my discard pile anyway, just as a fidget. But yeah, that makes sense. Definitely keeping it in order to make sure you're able to sequence your events just in case for a scenario like this.
So sounds like they're going to check the VOD to make sure everything's okay. Frank seems to think everything is in line, but we want to make sure everything is up to snuff, everything is up to code as well, making sure that everyone has done everything the way they are meant to. So, I mean, good on our judges for trying to catch everything, and we want to make sure everything is all right. But yeah, Frank, I trust Frank as a player. I feel like he's probably in line with where, his thought process has gone. Maybe it could have been a situation of, he played one card, took a card back, right, put the level ball back in his deck. I think that's what I heard Frank saying, is that the other level ball is in his deck, showing that there's just one in his discard pile, right? So
yes, and again, in this high level of play, when, again, time is your enemy here, you just have to play really fast. And especially in the Inteleon deck, where there's so many sequencing of events where you're just evolving, searching, scoop up to search again, yeah, there's quite a bit of actions for sure.
So we're checking if a level ball grabbed the Drizzile correctly, maybe to make sure it was level ball that got the Drizzile and not quick ball that grabbed the Drizzile. So that's the word I'm hearing, at least at the moment, but we will keep you updated as we hear any more information. We can see our judges there at the table, kind of making sure. I think they're checking the VOD right now to make sure they see exactly what happened, make sure everything is up to how it should be at this point in the game.
Yes, and again, there's nothing wrong with just clarifying what is, when there's something unsure in your game state, it's never wrong to just, call up a judge and double check things. You will, you'll get a time extension and everything, so everything should be A-okay as long as things have been played correctly. And yeah, we're just reviewing the footage here again, but based on the board state, honestly, the game is still anyone's game.
It looks like they're having to rewind a little bit farther back, trying to figure it out. Our judges are definitely wanting to make sure everything is good to go. And any sort of time that is taken up from this ruling will be awarded back to the players in the form of a time extension. That is a pretty normal part of any of these rulings. So however long it takes, they will get that much time added back onto the clock. So they won't lose anything.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, again, definitely not a position you want to be in. But again, it's not bad to double check. I personally, I don't think I caught anything in particular.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything either, but
I
mean,
again, games are fast. The game was really, really fast.
Yeah, and sometimes you're looking over here, checking out, something on this side, checking out something on your opponent's side, right? It's easy to maybe, for one of us to maybe miss something. Our judges maybe got word from someone else watching that something could have been done, missequenced, and yeah, it looks like they're checking it out right now.
Yeah, they may have been able to find it there, but again, hopefully nothing too serious for sure.
And it's a position as well where if there is like a game state error, where if the game state is broken and the judges have to try to fix the game state, that will potentially result in a prize penalty. And if it results in a prize penalty, that means that John will go down to just one prize remaining. And if John goes to one prize remaining, it's pretty much inevitable that he'll be able to win this game. So looks like our judge here is explaining exactly what happened, has seen the footage, and we're going to have a discussion and talk through it with Frank.
Exactly. Again, it's game 3. These players have been playing, at this point, 8 hours of Pokemon, right? 8 full hours of Pokemon.
Mentally grueling.
Especially Frank's deck, where I couldn't even do the math properly.
Yeah, I mean, just playing Inteleon decks in general can be mentally draining because you just have so many options, right? Even though it might seem a little straightforward at certain times, the fact that you can pull pretty much any card out of your deck at any given time means you just have so many options, so many things to consider, so many paths to potentially go through. It's really difficult to identify that one correct line of play.
And that's just the Inteleon part of it, right? That in Pocky Inteleon, that's the hard part. Frank is playing a paralysis lock Inteleon that makes you plan your damage in such a way that you get knockouts at the most opportune moment. So he's also thinking about, oh, should I set up the Radiant Alakazam now to move the damage this time? Or no, you know what? Maybe I'm going to be able to set up the quick shooting Inteleon 2 turns from now to be able to take this knockout eventually. And it's a very very tough deck to play.
Spread decks definitely take a large brain to navigate correctly. So you got to really, put your mind to work when you're playing one of them.
Exactly, and I fully believe in Frank Percic, one of the best players I've personally been able to play against, and yeah, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like we're having head judge come up to the table. Not sure if it's an appeal type of situation. We did see our judges looking through the replay, so they should have been able to catch anything and maybe noticed if anything wasn't exactly as it should be. Talking through it, we see table judges now explaining to the head judge the exact situation, and then the head judge will come in and listen to Frank's side and hear what everyone has to say and probably dish out whatever the final ruling is.
Exactly. I mean, as much as, it's unfortunate to be able to have to go through this type of things. At least, there is some footage to go back on. It was a stream
The proof
game.
is out there, yes.
It's
We've got evidence. We've got video footage.
It's just you just have to listen to us a couple of times over and over again.
Yeah, we had this similar situation with that Vikavolt deck in top 4 of the last tournament in Charlotte, right, where you and Boo were kind of stuck having to chat about it for a while, where a super long ruling was happening. You're having a few of these for your first round of casting here, Wancho. 2 tournaments in, you've got 3 of these super long stalls on screen. Welcome to the crew.
That's okay. I couldn't think of a better person or better people to really have chats with on live like this. So not too bad. I'm definitely practiced in these situations right now. It looks like a judge is explaining a couple of things right now to Frank. And again, hopefully we do get a resolution sometime soon. Looks like we're just going to go ahead and go through the deck go through the discard pile again one more time.
This is the deck, actually.
Oh, the deck.
I wonder if they're pulling a card out that...
Give me 1 more second. I need to discuss
or checking the contents of the deck, I think, potentially as well.
That is true. That is true. I mean, that is one way to determine the plays that have happened, right? You know the counts of the cards in the deck, and you can only if you've been able to, you can only search. You can only quick ball 4 times and whatnot, right? And yes, again, we're just waiting here, waiting for the discussion. Round 8, ladies and gentlemen. Again, a long day here, and it's unfortunate. Would love to see this game really start going again. Would love to see how Frank maneuvers the scenario he finds himself in.
Yeah, I'm trying to listen in here if we can maybe hear just a little sneak of what I think this is Justin here, what he's saying, and exactly what's going down. I think the ruling is being dished out, and it could be a penalty situation, could be a game state error. Frank has agreed with whatever Justin has said.
Was that just now, or was that last earlier? So that was during the turn.
So it looks like it's something that happened maybe a turn ago.
We were dealing with the situation.
They're talking through it. Some card maybe played out of order. Some card grabbing a Pokemon that it shouldn't have. Seems like that type of situation. And if the deck has been shuffled now, you get into a situation where the game state is
irreversible.
Right? There's a difference between like a game state error, one that can be rewound and fixed, and then game state error where now someone's played a Marnie and all those cards are in the deck, right? And
I have a feeling, it's probably irreversible at this point, with the amount of searches and everything Frank has already been able to go through, and maybe, especially if it's a couple of turns ago. And what's important is both players and the judge do understand what is happening. It looks like.
So the question is if the Drizzile came out of the deck at all for the quick ball. Potential double prize penalty, depending on what the ruling is, and there was no Drizzile on the deck to be able to do the search, right? So, because 2 of them are prized, and it looks like a handshake is being extended. So, I think whatever the result is, resulted in a double prize penalty, even if maybe it was not fixable and it was a game loss, some sort of situation. Whatever the situation was, it does appear John Williams is coming away the winner of this one. Moving to 6-1-1, we're going to have a Zacian V-Star deck in day number 2.
Not too bad there again. Zacian V-Star, not something in my bingo book for day 2 here at the Fort Wayne Regional Championship. But again, I think we did get to see up to game 3. Both players played it absolutely beautifully. I was definitely enjoying the games.
So it was a game loss that was issued to Frank. It seems like it was an irreversible game state type of situation. Really unfortunate to see it happen, but if you make an error with one of these Intellion decks, it can really get to that point where the game state just gets a little too far gone for the judges to go back in and try to adjust it if any sort of issues happen.
Yes, and again, I've mentioned earlier, I'm no stranger to just grabbing the item off an item, right? Maybe skipping a couple of steps just because I'm trying to think so far ahead, especially when time is my opponent. But again, huge congratulations still to both players. I think Frank still should be able to try and make his way to day 2. The dream is not dead yet for Frank, and if I know anyone who can pick themselves up after this type of scenario, it's Frank Percic.
Yeah, absolutely someone who can make it happen. Someone, I think he's hoping for maybe a little bit better of a pairing. I think looking back on it, it does seem like a pretty tough matchup for Frank's deck, and it's not something that his deck was meant to play against going into this weekend. It's an anti-meta deck. He wants to play a bunch of Mew and a bunch of Lugia. Even stuff like Lost Box is probably a little questionable of a matchup, to be honest. Reggie's maybe a little questionable matchup, but if you hit the things like the Goodra, the Arceus Duraludon, you can maybe make it work.
Exactly. Well, here's hoping he runs into a Lugia. That's not a very far-fetched wish to make.
With no switch cards?
Yes, exactly. Even one. You can deal with one.
You can deal with one, without a doubt. While we're waiting for this interview to get set up with our winner, I guess we could update just a couple of things that have happened out in the field. Looks like Caleb Rogerson was able to defeat Riley McKay. Caleb now at 8-0.
We have an 8-0 in a regional. You must be feeling really good going into day 2 with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking to get a round 9 win. Not too many people get to go 9-0 at a regional championships. It's pretty difficult to do. It happens, it seems like every few tournaments these days we get 1 or 2 people that end up going the 9-0. It doesn't happen too often. Xander Bennett, another player, sitting at 7-0-1. Lance Bradshaw and Grant Manley, Tanner Drabeck, and Nathan Guffey all joining as well. 7-0-1 for all of those players.
Not too bad. Huge congratulations to all those players and best of luck in day 2. At this point, your top 100 at least out of over 1,000. Oh, that must be good.
And yeah, the one match I do want to talk a little more on was Grant Manley up against Michael Pramawat. Definitely a top tier lineup right there. Grant did get the win playing his Reggie deck. We did see him just a few rounds ago. Michael Pramawat on a Mew VMAX list. So that's a matchup